Call the meeting to order. If you would, please stand for opening prayer and pledge allegiance. Mr. Mendez, if you would.
Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather tonight. We ask that you lead and guide us through this meeting and just keep your watchful eyes over us and the city of Republic. In your precious Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Moving on to mayor's announcements, appointments, and votes. I'd like to start with happy birthday, Mr. Greg Smith. His birthday is May 21st.
Thank you.
I almost gave him his card to sign for himself on accident a minute ago, but that didn't happen, so. We'd also like to recognize Hood United Methodist Church for 125 years. This is their anniversary coming up. We have a proclamation. I'm going to read that now. It's, whereas Hood United Methodist Church of Republic was founded at the corner of Walnut and Grant in 1892 in order to spread the love of God and the good news of Jesus Christ. And whereas Hood United Methodist Church has continued to advance and grow over the years while touching youth and family members of the community of Republic. And whereas Hood United Methodist Church members worship together as a community of believers and support one another's values and beliefs in the one true God. And whereas on this commemoration of its 125th anniversary, Hood United Methodist Church remains as committed to continue nurturing the faith of its members and to share the gospel message to our surrounding communities. And whereas, as we celebrate this milestone, we pause and give thanks, honor, and praise for the deep and abiding Christian commitment of those who in faith began this work, for all those who have given so unselfishly during these many years to see that the work of the church continues to grow and thrive. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Usry, Mayor of and for the City of Republic, Missouri, do hereby honor the 125th anniversary of Hood United Methodist Church and proclaim Sunday, May 21st, 2017 as Hood United Methodist Church Day, and urge all citizens of Republic to pay special tribute to this church on the occasion of their 125th anniversary. In testimony whereof I have hereunto set my hand and affixed the seal of the City of Republic this 16th day of May, AD 2017. And Reverend Jim O'Mahan is going to be here to accept the proclamation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's such a great pleasure to be a part of this community, and I'd like Juanita Bridges to come up here. Juanita's been a member for many, many years, and I've seen many of you at events at our church, and we're just blessed to be a part of the community, and we appreciate all of your support. Juanita, you want to say anything?
Well, I just want to invite you all to our celebration on Sunday and hear more about the history of our church.
All right.
So thank you very much.
All right. You take a step over that direction. We'll do that. We'll do that. Let's all be in.
One more step.
One more step. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all
Thank you for
very
your
much.
service to the community.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we would like to recognize one of our great city employees that went above and beyond. Recognition of Christina Elmore. On the afternoon of Wednesday, March 22nd, a Republic citizen visiting the brush dump site located within the wastewater treatment plant facility became unresponsive. Miss Christina Elmore, Animal Control Officer, was working at the animal shelter adjacent to the brush dump site at the time of this incident. She was made aware of the situation and performed CPR on the individual until emergency medical providers arrived on scene. Ms. Elmore did the right thing at the right time for the right reason by attempting to save the life of one of our citizens. In recognition of her efforts, we would like to present Ms. Elmore with a token of our appreciation. Ms. Elmore, if you'd come up. We'd like to thank you for embodying what a Republic team member should be. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time we'll open a public hearing of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri regarding approving amending the zone code chapter 405, zoning regulations of the Republic Code of Ordinances as the same relates to driveways constructed in agricultural districts. Mr. Tyson.
This hearing concerns a bill that will exempt properties, residential properties within the agricultural district from the requirements that normally would apply to residential driveways. Those requirements at present are that any residential driveway has to be paved with either asphalt or concrete and has to be at least 16 feet wide. This bill would eliminate the agricultural district from having to comply with that same requirement.
Okay, at this time, is there anyone who would like to speak against this amendment? Please step to the podium, state your name and address. You have 5 minutes. Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to speak for this amendment? Step to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Seeing none, this public hearing is closed. On to citizen participation. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Hello, I'm Mike Haynes. I'm the Regional Director of External Affairs for AT&T for Southwest Missouri. I had emailed the mayor a couple weeks ago about a program that we're doing for some low-income households, and he invited me to come and address the council. So thank you for inviting me, and I'll just take a few minutes to tell you about this. Access from AT&T was launched in April of last year to provide a low-cost option for wired home internet access to low-income households where we offer wireline internet services, which includes a lot of the City of Republic. To be eligible, at least one person in the household must be a participant in the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or SNAP, which is formerly known as the Food Stamp Program. There are 3 speeds available under the program. AT&T will assign you a speed of 10, 5, or 3 megabits, whichever is fastest to your address. The monthly fee is $10 for the 10 or 5 megabit service and $5 for the 3 megabit service per month. There's no charge for installation, activation, or for equipment. There's no deposit, and the service is month to month with no contract. People who are eligible can order it online at att.com, or they can also call a toll-free number, and that's included in the email that I sent you, Mayor Essering. Right now we've committed to the program for 3 additional years through April of 2020, and then we'll see where we go from there. Are there any questions?
Thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to speak about anything not on the agenda? Step to the podium, give us your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Seeing none, citizen participation is closed. Need a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. On to old business and tabled items. Need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill number 17-19.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Ms. Franklin. 8-0.
An ordinance of the City of Republic, Missouri adopting the 2012 edition of the International Existing Building Code regulating and governing the repair, alteration, change of occupancy, addition and relocation of existing buildings, including historic buildings, in the City of Republic, Missouri, providing for the issuance of permits and collection of fees therefor, repealing all other ordinances or parts of laws in conflict therewith, and further amending Section 500.001, adoption of the 2012 edition of the International Building Code by deleting Chapter 34.
Thank you. Need a motion and a second for final passage of Bill number 17-19.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Tyson.
Thank you. It is still Building Safety Month, and here in Republic, we do want our buildings to be safe. We also want our buildings to be improved so that they appreciate and value. However, as it currently stands, there are some cases in which there are existing buildings that people own or want to purchase and make some improvements to that would cause the value of those buildings to increase and also provide more safety. However, under our current regulations, sometimes that is cost prohibitive. Right now, the way we regulate existing buildings is there's just one single chapter in the International Building Code that basically says anytime you change anything, you almost have to upgrade everything. So we try to work around that as best we can, but what we're bringing to you this evening is an option to adopt the International Existing Building Code, which will provide greater flexibility and more alternatives for these building owners and for architects who are designing these improvements that will allow improvements to be made to these buildings but will not be so cost prohibitive. It will provide more options to where you can improve parts of a building without having to improve all of the building, and there are additional methods that will be available. There will be a scoring system that they could utilize, all of it designed to balance the need for compliance for safety purposes in recognition of the costs of these improvements.
Thank you, sir. We have any questions for Mr. Tyson's comments, concerns? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Durand? Aye. Councilmember Mendez?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashear?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Bill carries 8-0. Next item on the agenda is a tabled item. Need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill number 17-20.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Mr. Tyson? I'm sorry, we need to read it.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the zoning code, Chapter 405, zoning regulations of the Republic Code of Ordinances, as the same relates to driveways constructed in agricultural districts.
Mr. Tyson?
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, it's currently the case that anytime you're building a residential dwelling or an accessory building, regardless of what residential zoning district you're in, whether it's an urban density residential district or the agricultural district, it's required that your driveway that accesses your house or your accessory building be constructed of asphalt or concrete and that it be at least 16 feet wide, which is totally appropriate in our urbanized areas here in town. But in the agricultural districts, it's normal and I believe appropriate that you would be allowed to have gravel driveways. Generally, those homes and other buildings are set back much further from the street, and so it can be very expensive if you have to put in a driveway that's 16 feet wide and either asphalt or concrete. We've evaluated this. In fact, this has been something that has been requested many times over the 9 years that I've been here. In staff's determination, we've concluded that the benefits of having those paved surfaces in that particular zoning district just do not outweigh the costs that are being imposed upon these property owners. So for that reason, staff is recommending the adoption of this amendment that would exempt the agricultural zoning district from those requirements. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of this bill as well.
Mr. Tyson, any questions, comments, or concerns? Mr. Wilson?
I have one. On this, it states that agricultural zones of the city to be composed of compacted gravel or crushed stone. As I understood P&Z, it also included if they wanted, they could drive on the grass.
That applies to accessory buildings, yes.
Right.
So that is the case. If you look at paragraph D under section 2, driveways accessing accessory buildings within the agricultural zoning district are exempt from all of the requirements. What is not there is a requirement that an accessory building in the agricultural district have a driveway. So if you don't want to have a driveway, you don't have to have one.
As long as it's in there.
Any other questions or comments? All right, remember this is a first read, so if you have any questions, please get with Mr. Tyson. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill number 17-21.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0, Ms. Brenda.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending section 705.050, 705.060, and 705.170 relating to utility billing and administration of the municipal water and wastewater systems.
Good
Need a-
evening. As,
Just a second.
I'm sorry.
Need a motion and a second for the final passage of Bill number 17-21.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Parks?
As I mentioned at the first reading, our utility staff got together and looked at the ordinances and codes that made up the current utility billing department. And they looked to see at ways we can improve it for our citizens and ways that we can look at improving it from the utility side. Some of the main things that we looked at was the administrative policy for payment plans. We would like to be able to set that per administrative policy, not having to go off of finite ordinance. Today was water shut-off day, actually, and I was able to observe in the morning we had 100 accounts that were shut off. By the end of the day, 67 of them had been turned back on. So that will give you an estimate of how many accounts we're probably looking at realistically on an average month-to-month for payment plans is probably around 30 to 35 accounts. So that's how many we're looking at when we're adopting this policy. Utility deposit restoration, we looked at it could be waived if a citizen had 12 months of continuous good payments. Also, both sewer and water credit, we would like to make them the same at 50%. Currently, there's a lot of confusion when we're trying to explain these credits to the citizens, why there's a difference between the sewer and the water. And so we thought to be consistent with both, it takes away the confusion, makes it easier for both parties involved. And then finally, we are allowing 100% credit when the city goes out, inspects, and deems that the amounts of water that leak do not actually enter the sewer system. So those were the issues that the utility billing department looked at that we brought to you in the first reading. Thank you.
Any questions, comments for Ms. Parks? Ms. Self?
I just want to say thank you for your work on this. This is one of those deals that, we need clarification for one, efficiency, and then, going forward, this is just another one of those deals that I think are good for customer service too, so thank you.
Thank you.
Any other conversation? Questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashear?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Mendez?
Aye.
Councilmember Duran? Aye. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Bill passes 8-0. Thank you. On to new business. I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill number 17-22.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Ms. Brenda?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into a development agreement with Drury University as to cost sharing for infrastructure improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As many of you know, there's been some new members on here. The city established a memorandum of understanding with Drury University and Rankin Properties to develop out there where the ROI property is to help kind of spur some economic development, some growth in that area. To continue growth was to agree to construct the street improvements that is needed for that area. So we started with the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding. The original layout is about 6 lots. However, in the development agreement, we've actually outlined that if they want to consolidate those lots into 1 or 2, there are some provisions that have been addressed, and we'll have probably well more described in the next reading, I guess, the best way to describe it. But we want to provide some provision in the development agreement that if they was to consolidate lots from the original plan, because it's not platted right now. So basically, if there was only 3 lots, the city is still made whole. And what the plan is the city would install the water, the sewer, and the street, and as the property is sold, then the city is made whole from Drury Properties. And this is just executing on the MOU that we've already voted on. At the second reading, there'll be some more specifics that are laid out, because we're getting down to the very specifics of the ordinance of itself, or the developer agreement, of how we're paid, how that would look, when the installation has to be done. But we've moved the installation date back to the 15th because we did bid the sewer out, I believe, May 5th. So the timeline for us to be substantially complete was indicative upon when the design was done. So we just went out to bid on December, that'd been a long time ago, May 5th. But really nothing substantially, Ron, or any other has changed that much from the plan, but this is a good cost share agreement with Drury and Mr. Rankin to help move some of those properties and see some more properties like ROI and more developments in that area. So again, it's a public-private partnership that I think is very good for us, and I just again request your consideration and recommend your approval.
Any questions, comments for Mr. Cameron? Mr. Sell?
Just want to echo again from my prior comment that this is, just another one of those things that we need as far as a business community and development friendly. And I think it speaks volumes to say that we're open for business and thinking outside the box, along with having safety nets while we do that. So appreciate the work.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It shows an area of activity where there's been inactivity, and that's a good thing.
Thank you.
Anything else? This is first read, so if you have any questions or comments, concerns, get Mr. Cameron, please, for the next meeting. Need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill number 17-23.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0, there, Brenda.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the budget for fiscal year 2016.
Ms. Parks.
Okay, well, I've been working with our auditors, KPM. They were on site for a whole week, and we've been doing the post-site audit requirements. One of the things that was brought to our attention is that a final 2016 budget amendment was not processed. Some of that is we were trying to wait for the final budget numbers from the auditors, but they decided that we should probably go ahead and get it approved before the audit report. But investigating this budget amendment, we discovered that we also did not have one for 2014 or 2015. Those will be brought forward to you guys so that we're in compliance with the state in June. But I have to work on the numbers, it's going to take a little bit of research, so I wasn't able to get it on this at this time. The auditor said that's fine because he's auditing us on the year 2016. So I'll just go through the budget amendment for you really quickly. Back when the City Hall land was acquired, a special fund, 81, was set up. And so since there was nothing budgeted at the time, it was created, it was $411,000 is the new fund line. The Parks Department also, after adjusting entries coming out of the audit, we think that the aggregate amount will be $3 million, which is slightly over what was budgeted. This is from adjustments that come out of the audit. Another thing that happened was last year you guys separated the storm water out of the streets and stormwater fund. When this happened, we stayed within the original budgeted amount, but creating the new fund itself caused us to need the new budget report. So we've increased that for $260,000. The streets and storm water fund was separated. This caused us to create a street fund of its own, And so that came in at $2,600,000. So we have brought this forward. It'll have its second reading right before the audit report, and therefore we will be in compliance with the state of Missouri. Anyone have any questions?
Questions from Ms. Parks, Mr. Self?
It's not a question, just more of another statement, but I realize that this is not a small challenge, so and I understand, like, being a newer employee, maybe this wasn't, you know, something brought up in the interview or what have you, but I just want you to know that I do appreciate the work on it, because getting us straightened out as far as for the state and everything, that's a big deal, so, and it's not I understand it's not something small, so thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from council?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So, I'm gonna echo what Brandon said, and to those that were new, the separation of street and stormwater, as you all know, that was a consolidated account. We hired BKD to split those accounts. We also split the water and wastewater fund. And so there's been a number of things. I would tell you that the audit has unveiled. One thing about it is that we have been very upfront, and we've continued to say is we're going to bring that out and discuss it and present it in the community, that we are straightening those things out. Because like you said, 14 and 15 has still not been, the revised budget was not done. So there's still work that's going to need to be done. But I do believe when it's all said and done, the work after this audit is complete, even though I still want to say one more audit, that I appreciate the work that's being done. I appreciate the understanding that we are trying to build it on a solid foundation. And Debbie, I do appreciate the fact that you, 8 weeks now? And the auditors were here your first week? So I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but she's done an outstanding job to take that role on, but to help build on where we were going. But I'm glad to have those accounts separated. They're reconciled, and so thank you very much, and we recommend that you approve this.
Anything else? Nothing? Okay, this is a first read, so if you have any questions, please see Ms. Parks. Thank you, ma'am. On to other business, resolution number 17-R-39, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the staff to issue a request for proposal to obtain new accounting software. Need a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Parks again. We're keeping you busy tonight.
When I first arrived at the City of Republic, I was very excited to just jump right in and get started learning all the accounting, the funds. Never did I imagine that one of the biggest obstacles was learning the accounting software. So I thought, well, maybe it's just my computer setup. But when I started digging and talking to everyone, it seemed to be systemic throughout the City of Republic. So what I did is I worked with, got permission from our administrator to do a survey. I sent the survey out to the different departments to get feedback to see what issues we were having. So we got those surveys back. So then the next step I did is I took this survey and I actually sent it to Summit, our current accounting provider. And I said, these are some issues that we're having. Could you tell me what we need to do? Are there solutions? Are there improvements? Or is it training issues? Because I kept hearing that maybe staff just wasn't trained properly, correctly, and myself included. So what I got back just 2 days ago from Summit, from Data Tech, they did address a lot of it. Some of it is training, but a lot of it were enhancements that we were needing to make to the software that would need to be purchased, and then additional modules that we would need to actually purchase if we were to remain with to be able to go forward with the current software provider. So before we go down that path, I am asking the council to consider going out for a request for proposal to get proposals from other accounting software companies to see what is out there, what's available, and what the price is. I'm estimating that the price, from talking to other municipalities in our area and from just calling around, I'm thinking it might be in the ballpark of $200,000. I've talked to some and it might go as far as $240,000, $250,000. However, if we were to start, if the council were to approve it, we wouldn't have to do everything all at once. We might be able to start with a basic and add on a few later over time. This is not an easy decision because it would be a big capital expense. But I'll just give you a background. When the city first got the software, we roughly had 6,800 citizens in Republic. Since then, according to the 2015 census, we have 16.5 citizens approximately. So we operate now out of 9 remote locations, and we're needing a software package. And instead of calling it accounting software, you'll see in the request for proposal, I called it an integrated financial solution. Because what I'm talking about is not just accounting, I'm talking about the HR management of our city. I'm talking about hopefully a timekeeper tracking program. Right now we use old-fashioned punch cards, which round to the nearest 7 minutes, and we calculate them. And also, we're growing, hopefully, in the future. So we would like a business license module that works better and more efficiently, so we're not tracking in access. And we'd also like to offer to the Community and Development Department a module that allows them to schedule inspections and just basically all the needs that they have in their department in order to grow and be more friendly to the community and the business development community. So if we went forward with the request for proposal that I put together with the help of our IT director, he gave me the technical specifications of our network. I would like to propose, well, city administrator is proposing that we have a review committee of the request for proposals, if the mayor so would like to designate 2 council members, and then have staff evaluate these proposals as they come in and just see what is out there. So going forward, this is just a proposal for a request for proposal. It's open for change or dialogue.
Thank you. Any conversation, questions, comments, concerns for Ms. Parks? Mr. Self?
So with the current situation that we have, how much do you think it actually costs us to have that program? Man-hours, maybe man-hours, or inefficiencies, or money that is,
Well,
I won't say lost, but...
I'll just tell you it's very inefficient because just alone in my department, I'm having issues where every time I go in and start to work, it freezes up. I have to literally restart my computer, and as you aware, at the finance director level, I'm coming in really quickly in between meetings and answering questions, and so when I'm trying to do that, it's very inefficient. And then the utility billing area in itself, we have incompatibility with the current credit card processors. So every day we're having to go in, they have an insufficient fund listing that having to go through and reconcile. So overall, I'm not sure how much it amounts to. However, I did pull the numbers, and last year we spent the annual licensing fee. It's not free. It's $19,800, and then we spent approximately $7,000 in additional fees for them to help repair, support functions, and for training. For training of staff, because they said a lot of this might be resolved with more training, is $680 a day. So if I was to provide Summit to come in and do additional training, which they are suggesting to help resolve some of the issues, to provide it to everyone who needs training, I mean at $680 a day, they train one-on-one. So they suggest training, you know, so if you go to everyone's desk, if we're looking at 3-4 weeks of training total to get everyone up to speed, I mean, that might be more training than that's needed, but.
Your first meeting, I asked you, what are a couple tools that you need to do your job to the best of your ability? And Summit, a change in Summit was your answer. So I appreciate you bringing this to us. And though it is an expense, we're all about efficiencies and deliverables to the community. So if we can make sure that we're not losing out on whether it's credit card transactions or what have you, that's going to help with our cost for the software.
Can I mention one more thing? I forgot to mention that we do have, and I'll talk about it in my financial report in a few minutes, our cash reserves. But we also have designated cash. And this designated cash, through working with the audit, because I wanted to make sure that hadn't been tapped in some other way. Basically, when we had excess funds that came in over the budgeted year, they'd be rolled over to this capital improvement designated cash fund. So basically, they could be undesignated through a resolution of the council, and so this capital funds could be used to pay for this purchase. So it would not have to come out of the unrestricted cash and help use our unrestricted cash. And I put that breakdown inside the exhibit.
Mr. Dyer?
Question on the current software you have, is there potential, with the way you don't have the modules, you need someone to do it, for the numbers to basically get off again and see all of this on?
Yeah, I mean, right now we've had some issues with, we don't know if it's the procedures that my staff has had. That's been what we've been looking at with the audit. Some of the reports just keep getting off, we get them back on, and we're discovering that some of it is the inputting of the data, but on the other hand, we're not sure if there's actually issues with the software. Recently, as far as last week, well, no, it was 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, I misspoke, we purged 10 years worth of data. We had 20 years worth of data. So every time a staff member would go type in something, it has an automatic function, it would start pulling through that 20 years of data. And so when we're talking about that much data, so I don't know, maybe we need to address reconfiguring the software, but as far as I know, I can't give you a definite answer.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Just a couple questions.
Yeah.
So, the inefficiencies that you listed and the problems that you presented to Summit,
Mhm.
did they feel like in their response that they could address those inefficiencies that you listed?
Well, for example, the human resource module. They said they're currently building a module, it's not ready for the market yet. So, so some of the extra things that we would like to have, they cannot currently address.
But, okay, but the things that we currently encounter today with the current system, just out of curiosity, did they think they could address those?
They say they can. They've been since I've arrived, I've been on the phone with Summit pretty much every day, and they've been working constantly through issue after issue after issue. They're still working on some. They have 2 pages here of things that they will build into our software. However, I would just like to say it would be for a fee. So to fix some of these inefficiencies that we're having.
Did they tell you how much, just out of curiosity?
No. But I would not mind getting that answer for council, if you would like that.
Just curious as
Mhm.
to what the proposal is. And I know a lot of times the train-the-trainer approach, which is, it sounds like to me what they do, it's not uncommon for that to be that expensive, but you can typically negotiate those things to where you can open that up to a wider group and stretch your dollars.
Okay.
So don't be afraid to push back if you need training.
Okay.
I'm in manufacturing. I've
Mhm.
been for 20 years plus. When I start talking efficiencies with my boss, it's for one of 2 things typically. Increase your capacity or reduce your costs, or both.
Mhm.
I'm not sure about increased capacity in this situation, but what about reduced costs in the long run? What do you see there?
Well, as far as utility billing goes, if we had a different software and we could have online utility billing payments, I think the benefit to the citizen would be great, and also to the city. I mean, we have a lot of people who have late payments solely for the fact that it's hard to make payments. However, staff time itself, I think the savings, as we grow city, the demands on our staff time are going to increase, the functions that are expected of staff. So in order to meet that, we would have to add on additional staff members. I feel like, but I can't say 100%, that having better software that increases our efficiencies would allow us, the city, to grow without having to add on more staff as quickly. So.
Ms. Grant?
How many times a day or week do you find yourself having to restart your computer and taking that extra time?
Sure. Today alone, I was probably on Summit a total of an hour, and I restarted it 4 times. So, but another issue we have is if I'm in a module working and someone else is in the same module, one of us gets locked out. So then one person pauses and has to work on something else. They said that they're looking into why that is happening. See, we have a lot of things that they're looking into right now, because in theory it shouldn't be working like that. So.
I agree with Brandon that if this is the tool that you need, if this is what you're lacking, I mean, we wouldn't hire a guy to mow the parks and tell me I use this old worn-out mower and you can get out and beat it with a hammer and it fix it. I mean, we're not going to tell you to do that with software either. I don't think that's right. If this is the tool you need, then we need to start exploring some options.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
So, I'm gonna go back to so coming from the lean and coming from continuous improvement, and what is that? We have got to do our part on the why. We can tell you all there's a number of them. I've been on the phone with Summit 3 times, and I don't want to be on there at all with them, but I'm trying to help advocate and add leverage on the phone, but this is a big deal. We need data. We don't need to have February financials, and we're in May. So I'm used to seeing financials after 15 days after the close of the month. So here we are, May 15th. Technically, with the software, we should already know what our expenses were for the month of April, per se, or for the close of the month. And so trying to get that data, what is the turnover ratio? This is a big number to you all last year when you were working. I think it was right before I arrived. You want to know the turnover data. So I asked Lisa when she arrived, Lisa, I need a monthly turnover rate. Where are we at? So she has to do that by hand. That took 2 weeks. And so it's not just that aspect of it, but you got to explain, we got to justify what is the time savings of what that is. And what the request is let's evaluate what the softwares are, is basically getting permission just to look for proposals and to shop it. But all these conversations we've had with Summit, there's a lot of stuff that, and I'm not going to blast them or tear them down, but there's a lot of requests. Yeah, we'll get that. Hey, we want to make you. That deliverable is just not there. If it was there after 11 months, I've heard about it for 11 months now. And so I bet if I was to go through there, and Garrett, I hate to put you on the spot, but we were driving back from Jeff City one night from a meet and greet, and I said, Garrett, if I had $1 million and you were the administrator for one day, what would you do? I thought he'd say, I want to build a street because I'd change the Summit software. It's bogging us down that much. Do you recall the conversation? Because we got people backing it up with access. If I put all the city staff up here and say, how's it affecting your business day to day, I think they'd give you a pretty good answer. But what we're asking for tonight is just permission just to look at, before we go and spending one dime of the citizens' money, we need to be able to answer. Because I know this in business, I'd be asked to say, hey, how's it going to make more equipment? How's it going to produce more product? And we need to be able to show that it's going to free up more time and produce deliverables much faster. But if we can't make financial decisions for another 30 days because we're waiting for the financials to kick out, and I know that's what's frustrating, Debbie, because I'll ask for data, because somebody will say, where are we at financially? I'll say, I need that number, specifically at Schuler Creek, the pump station. I needed to know where our financials were that day on the wastewater side, and it was like, I can't give you that stuff. It's just, that's frustrating when you can't make that decision. So we will provide that data. What we're asking for now, and what I asked her to present to you, was let's move forward with at least doing proposals so that when we get to the budget cycle, we'll have an idea what it costs and we can budget for 2018. That's all. That's no expenditure tonight. Just let's evaluate it, put a few council members to look at, and make a recommendation to council. Go or no go.
Mr. Wilson?
Summit has been discussed for years, and they've had nothing but complaints about it. And if they was going to fix it, they'd already fixed it. They've had years to do it, and they haven't done it. So I'm for going out for proposals.
Any other comments or concerns, questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
one
sir.
last comment to Jason's point. So I was asked on the phone the other day if I would consider withholding the proposals and allow them to correct it, and I said no. I said I want to move forward because we can't wait. We need to work in concert with whether you're going to fix it if you can. We still want to look at the proposals, and we'll give them an opportunity to present. They've got a new upgraded version. So if they want to present that version to us and what that cost would be, we're willing to look at that as well. but I wasn't willing for them to continue to keep trying to fix a system that we were already having trouble with. So I wanted to answer, but we did ask.
So you might even ask them to present a full optimization plan. I work in the industry, which different industry, same enterprise software, and we go back and we address people, process, and product problems a lot. And so I would just ask them about their optimization processes, what they have that makes their new version different from their old version, and see if it addresses that. I mean, it could be memory issues, it could be a lot of different things that could be causing your heartache. And usually when you have an optimization process, they come to your site, they spend time addressing those things. So it just might be worth asking, see if they're willing to put some skin in the game, free of charge, to
Sure.
maintain you as a customer. Don't know, just a thought.
It's just a challenge, because I know today, we beat this one to death, but the point is we had to go from Windows 10 to Windows 7 to even run it.
That's okay, that's a different problem.
So when you got to downgrade to even run it, that's not, it just, processes, relationships, trust. I don't think it's a process. I just don't, like I said, please present something to council to consider. But we got to I'm with you. That's the question that we got to answer to the community is, how do we utilize your money and what benefit do they get? What value? How's it going to make their life easier? I think it'll be better billing, better delivery.
And Councilman Jones, I will have, if you guys vote to go proceed with the RFP, I will bring that information as best to our knowledge. We'll come back with some data, so you have some data to go off
Cost
of.
benefit.
Cost
Review it.
benefit.
Excellent.
That's a good point.
Anything else from council? We'll go back and remind everyone that we had a lot of discussion on this, so this is a request for proposal to obtain new accounting software. Nothing else from council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Thank you, Ms. Park. On to resolution number 17-R-40, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the disposal of surplus fire apparatus. I need a motion and a second.
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Chief Compton.
Good evening. We've had a couple of changes in events. One, as you know, we got a new aerial truck that'll be arriving in the next few weeks. And we have an auto aid agreement signed with the Willard Fire Protection District, and they have started staffing a Station 3 in the Meadow subdivision that is a lot closer to the City of Republic, that we have a lot faster response from them out of for water tenders. With those changes, we've kind of gotten to the point where we can dispose of two pieces of fire equipment. One is a 1984 Volvo white water tender, and the other one is a 1991 E1 fire engine. We've shopped the market and tried to get a best price that we could. What we kept running into is we had a number of brokers that wanted us to sign a brokerage agreement with them to allow them to broker the truck and charge us anywhere from 6 to 10% brokerage fee, and we really don't want to go down that particular road. We've had fairly good luck getting rid of this equipment. Actually have one local department interested in the engine. So based upon what's on the secondary market now, the Volvo has an approximate value of $16,000. The E1 engine's got an approximate value of about $19,000. We would like to dispose of both of those. There is some loose equipment that we will sell with both trucks. From past experience, it's generally not a real good thing to take off all the mounting brackets and leave holes in the trucks. We just soon pass that on. And we have some hose with the E1 engine that's probably 15 years old. It's at the end of its life cycle. We hose tested today, had some sections fail. We just soon send it on down the road with the truck. So when the sale of both of these occur, money comes in, will go into the reserve fund. We'll come back making a budget adjustment and apply that towards the debt on the 91 ladder truck. So we're trying to get that paid down as quickly as possible now that we've peeled away the layers of the onions and figured out how it was bundled together. That's really about it.
Discussion from council. Yourself.
Thank you, Chief. I do applaud you for, for putting that in there, once those proceeds are collected, that, we apply that to that 91 ladder truck as you know, we've discussed
Right.
a time or two. So I do applaud you for putting that in there. Thank you.
What about other equipment for Station 3? Is there, what's the plan there for?
Well, for Willard Station 3, they're sending us on an auto aid agreement. They're sending us either an engine or water tenders based upon the address, and we have to make a run card for each address in a city. So if you're in the former village of Brookline and you live off the Farm Road 115 area where we have no fire hydrants, we automatically get water tenders from them. We'll get a couple of tenders from them and one from Battlefield. So that makes up why we don't need this particular truck. We have currently 3 water tenders. The other 2 are 1994s, and we're going to go to keeping those 94 models and getting rid of this particular tender here. Long range down the road, when we did the financing for the aerial truck, I submitted that spreadsheet where we're at for equipment for Station 3. We'll take one of the current engines we have in service now when we figure out where we're going to put that station 10 years from now, and that will transfer some of the other equipment that we currently have into that station. That's always been kind of our plan. So.
Anyone have anything else? Mr. Smith?
I'm guessing that both of these trucks are taking a lot of money just to keep running also.
Actually, the Volvo is probably one of my best water tenders. The problem is it's got a 9-speed transmission, and the new generation of kids coming up cannot shift gears. Sorry, it's the truth. If you can drive it, it's a blast to drive. The 91 engine, we've not put a lot of money into it. We had to replace the motor in it a couple of years ago, and other than that, it's been pretty efficient.
Anything else? Seeing nothing, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. On to appointments and commissions. I spoke last meeting about how we needed to make the appointments for the Capital Improvements Committee, so we have those tonight. So I need a motion and a second to reappoint Alan Dixon to the Capital Improvements Committee for a 1-year term.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. I need a motion and a second to reappoint Denny Robbins to the Capital Improvements Committee for a 1-year term.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Need a motion and a second to reappoint Bonnie Williams to the Capital Improvement Committee for a 1-year term.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. I need a motion and a second to reappoint Gary Wilson to the Capital Improvements Committee as Vice Chairman for a 1-year term.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Motion carries 7-0 with Mr. Wilson abstaining. I need a motion and a second to appoint Jim Dykeman to the Capital Improvements Committee as Chairman for a 1-year term.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Same.
Motion carries 7-0 with Mr. Dykeman abstaining. Moving on to the financial report. Ms. Sparks.
Well, I feel it's very important to keep you guys in the loop of all the changes and everything that's happening in our finance department. Just so you know, my finance officer has resigned, and so I currently have the position advertised right now. I have proposed to the city administrator to bring back our interim, Larry Brown, for 2 weeks. He's going to sit in that desk. He's going to evaluate the processes to make sure when we start our new staff member, whoever's hired, that the processes are set up correctly, so that going forward we are guaranteed that we're doing things to make sure that our accounting records are 100% accurate. I have also hired a position, a utility billing supervisor. This position has been vacant for almost a year, so that'll bring a lot of stability and I hope a lot of growth to our utility billing department. And if you come in and visit, you will see that starting on Thursday, all of our offices will be changed around with the exception of mine to improve the flow for the customers of the utility billing department. We're moving all the offices in order of who has customer contact. So those are some changes that are coming. I would like to invite all of the council members, if you would like to come in and meet with me to discuss changes that have happened. If you're a new member, I would like you to come in if you would like to discuss how our financials work. And also, if you're a member who's been there for a long time, if you're just curious about some of the changes that have happened, some of the changes in reporting, I welcome the opportunity to meet with anyone who would like to set up an appointment, and I'll give you a tour of the new department. Also, part of the audit, we discovered that some of our internal controls were a little bit lacking. Either they were not being practiced or just some things might have been missing. So I also went around, and so we presented this to our supervisors at the quarterly supervisor meeting and have rolled that out so that it will be addressed by the time the auditors come back to do their audit presentation, that we've actually implemented the items that they will discuss. Also, we have, I discussed for Councilman Smith, I went to the bank that we currently bank with, and I asked them to look into possibly using it as a utility payment drop-off location. So they're currently looking into that, and so I hope to have a response for you at our next council meeting, whether or not they will agree to that. They won't be able to input it, but at least it'd be more efficient for customers. I'm also looking into possibly talking to a grocery store in town to see if it could also be another drop box location, so that people don't have to actually come into City Hall until we at least get our online solution figured out. You will see that I have the May financial report. It's a complete financial report for you. I have the sales figures, which are up 8.41 per this time period of last year, 2016. I also include behind the summary the 2-page breakdown, so you can see the actual sales figures that came in every month all the way back to 2014. Something new that you will see this time, and if I'm looking for feedback, any changes, but this is just so when I put this on the website for the citizens, whoever would like to have a snapshot, I actually put the revenue on one side and then next to it the expenditures per fund. As you know, with governmental fund accounting, we don't do an overall total budget, it's budgeted by fund. So this breaks it down. I put at the bottom that 33% is where we should be for the end of April in the budget, so you could sort of gauge where we came in compared to where we should be. Behind that, I have the actual report, so anyone who would like to see the details is behind there. One thing I would like to clarify for all who might be curious, it says PTD balance. That is period to date in Summit, and what that means is that is April's payments, so anything that came in April. Next to it is the year-to-date balance, which shows you where we are for the total year. And then next to that, you'll see the percent expended. Anything over 100 means we're over budget in that line item. Speaking of going over budget for line items, the way we amend the budget per the state statute is if you're going to go over the total fund balance, not necessarily line items. However, going forward, we're going to bring budget amendments for any large amounts. So I will probably bring a budget amendment for the Schuler Creek totals once those are finished, and so that way we'll be in compliance throughout the year. And then you'll probably see one at the year end for anything that goes over the total fund. We're not required to bring amendments if all the funds are under our budgeted amount. So then, just really quickly, the next section. This is more for citizens because my council members, you are probably all familiar with how much percentage of our budget each fund represents, but I thought it'd be just a quick snapshot for anyone curious. I will put this on the website. And then it's just a basic few items that people might be curious with. This is a new feature I'll probably do every month, explaining some simple governmental accounting terms, and it'll go on the website for the citizens. And then the last report you're very familiar with is our cash report, but I put this cover sheet which explains the restricted cash, designated cash, and unrestricted, because the world that we live in, our operating cash is unrestricted. So looking at our